In this video, we will practice our basic triangle properties. But first of all, look at these three examples. One of these problems can be solved using the Pythagorean Theorem, and one of these problems can be solved using the fact that the sum of the angles in a triangle equal 180. So look at problem number one. Is this a Pythagorean Theorem problem? Is this a sum of the angles equals 180 situation, or is it none of the above? Well, this is the situation where we know that this angle right here is 90 degrees, and we know that the other angle is 20 degrees, so they all have to add up to 180. So this is the situation where we will use the fact that the sum of the angles in a triangle are 180 degrees. So in other words, question mark plus 90 plus 20 has to equal 180 degrees. 90 plus 20 is 110. And if you subtract 110 from both sides, you get 70. So the question mark angle is 70. Now, that has nothing to do with problem number two. There are no angles. However, this is a problem that could be solved using the Pythagorean Theorem. When you first learned about the Pythagorean Theorem, they probably said something to you like a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. But this really is leg squared plus leg squared, and here's the most important part, equals hypotenuse squared. Because it's important to know which one of these is the hypotenuse. Some students accidentally put the variable by itself every single time. But here is the right angle. The hypotenuse is always across from that. So the 20 is the hypotenuse. So the 20 squared will go here. That leaves the question mark and the 12 to be the legs. So I have question mark plus 12, well, question mark squared plus 12 squared is equal to 20 squared. So that's going to give me question mark squared plus 144 is equal to 400. You have to subtract 144 from both sides in order to get the question mark squared. So that's 256. Finally, you need to take the square root of both sides to unsquare this. And the square root of 256 is 16. So the question mark side is 16. Okay, now as you saw, we could use the Pythagorean Theorem to find this side, but it will not help us find this angle. So we cannot use the Pythagorean Theorem. What about the fact that the sum of the angles are 180? Can we use that? No, because we're only given the 90-degree angle. We don't know what the other angle is, so we can't subtract from 180 to find it. So we can't use that. So neither work, so we'll just have to wait until we learn some more information. All right? However, that is something that's coming later. How about problem number 4? Well, we can use the Pythagorean Theorem to solve problem number 4 as soon as I get my pen working. The Pythagorean Theorem is good when we are dealing with only the sides. No angles, just sides. And that's what we have here. So we will definitely do the Pythagorean Theorem. I think I'm going to use X instead of question mark, because I like that better. Remember, the hypotenuse goes by itself when we do that a squared plus b squared equals c squared deal. All right, the c squared is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to have 10 squared plus 24 squared is equal to x squared. So that's going to be 100 plus, let's see, I have to check and see what 24 squared is. 576. So of course that'll be 676. And now we need to do the square root of both sides. So the square root is 26. All right, so that's it for number 4. For problem number 5, we are looking for that same side as before, but we only have one side given. So these are the sides. We have the 3 sides are here, here, and here. But to use the Pythagorean theorem, we need to have 2 sides and be missing only one. If we're missing 2 sides, there's no way to use the Pythagorean theorem. The 180 degree sum theorem has nothing to do with sides. That's only for angles. So that won't help us with this. So that means this is a problem where neither tool will help. How about problem number 6? Well, for problem number 6, we are looking for an angle. Luckily, we are given both of the other 2 angles. So we can use the 180 degree sum theorem. All 3 of these angles have to add up to 180. So you could say x plus 90 plus 24 is equal to 180. So if you were thinking, just add these up and subtract from 180, that's what we're doing, because right now we're going to add these up, and that's going to make 114. And then we will subtract from 180. And that's going to be 66. Okay, problem number 7. Based on angle J, label the hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. Okay, so focus on angle J. Across from angle J is always going to be the opposite leg. Across from the 90 degree angle is always going to be the hypotenuse. And that means the other leg must be the adjacent leg. All right, the adjacent leg is always the one that's nearby. So next we're supposed to do the same thing based on angle K. So focus on angle K. Now, first of all, the hypotenuse is always across from the 90 degree angle. So this will be the hypotenuse over here. But across from angle K will always be the opposite leg. So this will be the opposite leg for this problem. The other leg is the adjacent leg. All right, the adjacent leg is the one that's closer to the angle. All right, let's do that again for 9 and 10. Let's start with the hypotenuse. Across from the right angle, you know that the hypotenuse will be right here. Now, from the perspective of angle L, across from angle L will always be the opposite leg. And that leaves this to be the adjacent leg. But it is also the one that is nearby the angle that we circled. And for problem number 10, let's start by identifying the hypotenuse, which is across from the 90 degree angle always, based on angle M. So circle angle M. what is across from angle M? Whoops, I don't mean to be pointing at pointing at another angle. Across from angle M is this side, so that makes this the opposite leg. That means this right here is going to be the adjacent leg. All right, for number 11, we are meant to find the value of x. Notice that x is an angle, and notice that we have these other two angles already given. So we should be able to use the fact that all of these angles add up to 180. So let's add these two angles and subtract from 180. So this is 90 and 74. So that's going to be 164. So we just need to now subtract from 180. So 180 minus 164, that's going to be 16.
Mice are cute.
Mice are cute. So we just found that x is equal to 16. So x is 16, but we're not done. We still have to find y. Now y is one of the sides of the triangle. So when you're dealing with all sides, side, 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 that, my friend, is when you do the Pythagorean theorem. So when you think to yourself, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, because that's the Pythagorean theorem, remember that it's leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Which one of these three sides is the hypotenuse? I'm hoping you said the 50, because that's across from the 90-degree angle. So that means the 50 squared has to go in this position. So that means the other two sides are the a squared and the b squared. So y squared plus 48 squared. So this will be y squared plus, let's see, 48 squared is 2,304. 50 squared is 2,500. And now we must subtract 2,304 from 2,500. So that's going to be, and so that's 196. I wonder if that is a perfect square. So we need to take the square root of both sides like you do, and you get y equals, so I don't know this one off the top of my head, so I'm going to my calculator. 14. I did know that one, actually. Trust me, I knew it. So there it is. X is 16 and y is 14. Oh, was that supposed to be two separate problems? Okay, I'll just cut and paste that down there in a second. Number 13. From angle R, label the sides as hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. Well, look at that. We already labeled the hypotenuse. Remember that the hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, so that made sense. Now, here's where we have to really pay attention to the fact that it says from angle R. So, my suggestion, circle angle R. If you draw an arrow going across from angle R, that's going to point at the opposite side. So that makes this opposite because it's across from R. The side that we have not labeled yet will then be adjacent. Or you could think of it as the side that's really close to R. That's not the hypotenuse, of course. So that's it. Opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. but you had to circle the angle to know which is which.